You for the introduction. Thank you for the introduction. Thank you for everyone being here bright and early this morning. Um, my journey started years ago. I have 6 children, and one of them was sick, and she was sick most of her adult life. And so she taught me a lot in life. She passed away 5 years ago. And she was one of those kids that had just a bright outlook on life. And she would give you the shirt off her back. She would um, uh, do all kinds of different things. It was great in the community. And when she passed away, I realized that life was going to be different. Of course, she'd gotten an infection and we lost her to sepsis. She was young. She was only 31 years old. And she died in June of that year. And her birthday rolled around in August, and all of her siblings and her, nieces and nephews and friends and whatnot, they wanted to know how we were going to get through this. And I said, guys, we're not going to have a pity day. It's not possible. We are going to mourn their sister, their aunt, or their friend. I says, but this kid smiled her whole life, and she had a great outlook. And so we were not going to have a pity day. So let's get together and do something good. She had a young friend who was in foster care when she was growing up. And I remember her saying, oh my gosh, Mom, this kid only has a garbage bag with a couple of clothes in it. And we got everything. Now, later on in life, she said, oh my God, I thought we were so rich. You were a single parent. I don't know how you did it. But all the kids need to know is that there's love in a household, right? And so I remembered that. So when her day came around, I said, take yourself, take your kids, your grandkids, go shopping, and let's brighten and inspire the life of another child. And we're going to make 50 bags at her birthday party. The pool will be open. The barbecue will be going. Bring your pictures, bring your stories, because life is full of stories. We are all the author of our day, every single day of our life. And so they all showed up. There's probably, I don't know, 75, 80 people showed up that day. My husband said to buy 25 bags, and I bought 50. He says I'm always an overachiever. And I said, it'll just happen. And if they don't get filled up, we'll go shopping, make sure they're full, and we'll give them away. And we'll brighten some other child. And so that day I saw hope and healing. I saw people laughing. Saw them telling stories. I saw little kids telling me about how they went shopping and they bought this toy or this coloring book or whatever because they were going to help another kid smile. And I thought, oh, what a beautiful day. What a beautiful day, which could have been a really sad day. And then we had to go, we went to Big Family in Michigan. They are a foster care agency over in St. Clair Shores. So we went there and we met John Iris, who, God rest his soul, we lost him to COVID. But he was so excited because my husband and I each walked in with 5 duffel bags. Now, these duffel bags were so full that it took 2 people to hold them together for a third person to zip them. And the uh so the kids I was telling him what we wanted to do and how it came about, and he's told me about his program, and he said, you are not going to brighten and inspire the recipient only of this bag. You are going to allow me to open the door to other Department of Human Service offices across the state. And he said, I'm going to be able to help a whole lot more kids. And so we did that. And um, he toured us his facility. And at the end of the day, we asked him to come out to the car with us, and we popped the hatch, and there were 40 more. I thought he was going to have a heart attack on that day. But all of that stuck in my head. The nonprofit, how it's going to expand their mission, the children, how they were excited about giving back and knowing that a child was going to be happy at the end. even if only for a moment. I was going through therapy at the time, and my therapist said I should write my story. And I laughed at her. I said, I am a broken woman. I said, what are you talking about? She said, you will help many people. She said, write your story. And I had been journaling. And so I at one point I started to jot down more in a book format, and I created my book, and it was my grief journey. It's just about how I dealt with it. But in the process of doing that, I wrote a journal to go with it, and I wrote a children's grief book. All the questions that my kids asked me, the grandkids, those stories went into this book to give I call it a concept starter. It's strictly a way to start a dialogue with those kids. So um, we give our bags to many different locations, and anybody that gets a grief bag gets that book. And then the other one is just a coloring book, and it goes into all the bags. And um, it's all about positive sayings and good characteristics to model. And Sarah, I know you have a set of my books. And so it's really about being able to share my story of hope and healing, and brightening, inspiring not only children, but all the other people that we touch along the way. But what I wanted to talk to you today about was when I started writing, I realized that the cup has always been more than half full for me, my entire life, no matter what life gave me. And so when I had this huge chasm of grief that I didn't know, I was underwater, didn't know how to operate. Um, I was with my daughter 24/7. We were in the hospital months at a time. And so in a small little room, you have lots of long conversations with your loved one who's not feeling so good. And so she taught me a lot of lessons, and when I started thinking about it, I came up with the 4 aspects of positive reflection. And I don't care what your challenge is. I'm going to talk today from the loss of a loved one. But for you, every day we are the author of our life. Every day we get a chance to put our feet on the floor and decide if we're going to have a great day or a not so great day. And if somebody piles stuff on us throughout the course of our day that makes it not so great, you know what? We put that day to bed at the end of the night, and we wake up the next day with a new day, and it's a new chance to start over again. And so when I was talking about uh, these 4 aspects of positive reflection, I want you to think about the first one is to remember the good, the bad, the indifferent, whatever your situation is. And so when we talk about a loved one, we tend to put people up here on this pedestal that they were this really important person in our life, and they're just like, they're up here, right? And just by a show of hands, I want you to put a thumbs up in the air if you're thinking about someone really special while I'm doing this conversation. Okay. So we've all lost someone along the way, or um, physically, or maybe they're in another state or whatever, that had an impact on us. So we need to remember that person is. If I told you my daughter was 100% a rock star and she was always up here on this platform, I see some smiles. It's not true. She was as human as all of us are. And if I told you I was up here, I would have to laugh even harder, because it's not possible, right? But when we lose somebody, we put them up here like they never did anything wrong, and they're human. They're just like us. And so we have to remember that sometimes, because the second one, we should talk about how we reflect. And so when reflecting, it's what impact did you have on that person, place, or thing, and what did they have on you? And so I always tell the story that my daughter told me one day. She goes, Mom, I want to be just like you when I grow up. I said, well, honey, you're in your 30s. You're all grown up now. But you know what? you are me to like the 29th degree. You are up here. And she says, why would you say that? And I said, well, honey, you look a little bit like me. So this is maybe a little part of your future, but you're in the hospital and you're in a, 12 by 12 room or whatever size it is. And you talk to everybody. Everybody. I don't care if they're the cleaners, the doctors, the transport people, everybody that comes through. If they're a visitor in the hallway, you talk to them. If they're a patient in a room and they're got their pole and they're doing their 5 steps down the hall, you're talking to them. I said, so you called me one day and said, Mom, guy in the room next to me, they cut all his clothes off last night in the emergency room. It's not dignant. His back end's sticking out. Go to the store, get me some clothes. I said, okay, what's he look like? She starts describing him. I started laughing. I said, no, not what he looks like. Compare him to your brother. What size is he? I went to the store. Within a half hour, I was up there with a full jogging outfit, underwear, socks, shoes, the whole 9 yards. And she's like, come on, I'll introduce you. I said, no, I'm just a conduit. This is your good deed, right? This is you doing what you need to do and never need to make anybody else feel indebted or uncomfortable. But that was just her mannerism. She would do bake sales for Haven for the shelter. She would, she'd ring the bell for Salvation Army, wrap presents for cops for kids. She did all those good things. She learned it at a young age because it was very important for us to do that. The third one is, I say, is to recreate. And we always hear that new normal. Well, every day is a new normal. Every single day. You are the author of your day, right? And so every day you have the choice to either grab it or, you know what? You can pull the covers back over your head a little bit, but at some point you're still going to put your feet on the ground to get out of that bed because you have to, right? And so it's how you how you tackle it. And so every day is a new normal. And how do you do it? And so I always say that you can flip your perspective just slightly. And it, as Andrea said in the start, it might not make your day better, but it certainly can make it a little bit easier. And so I I do speaking a lot. We man the children's tent at the American Foundation of Suicide Prevention Walks. We were named the Community Partner of the Year this year for all the work that we did. And we manned the walks last year for 4 different walks. And at the end of the year, they gave us that award. But what was more important was I was authentic. I was real. I told my story of hope and healing. And I had 4 people reach out to me via text or email and say, I had saved their life. What an impact. But the story I'll share is our little ones, they don't understand. And some of us don't understand sometimes that our loved ones are with us always. And so they're in our thoughts, they're in our memories, they're in, how do you weave your story forward? So when I talk about that, recreate that new normal, one of the stories that I do with, that I tell a lot, and I did it, the suicide walk, right before they were getting ready to take off to do their walk, I sat down and I had been talking all morning, yeah. And my husband says, I said to my husband, I said, look, there's someone over there taking a picture with their thumbs up in the air. And he said, will you take a look around you, span the audience? And as I did, I saw pockets of people, 2 people, 4 people, 8 people, 20 people together, smiling and taking pictures with their thumbs up in the air. And he said, that's what you do. So I'm gonna put my thumbs up in the air and I'm gonna tell you the story of hope and healing. So this one represents my daughter, Susie. This one represents my mom. So when I take a picture, I don't care if it's a silly selfie. I don't care if it's a birthday party, a graduation party, a bridal shower, a baby shower, whatever the occasion or non-occasion is. You'll see me put my thumbs up in the air and smile. because it symbolizes for me and for other people that I was thinking about my two special loved ladies, right? My grandson, my granddaughters, they were 2 and 3 years old when their aunt passed away. So how do I weave her story into their life? Because they're not going to remember. I tell stories, and I always do a picture with the thumbs up in the air. We look for the butterflies and the pennies and how to kind of weave that story forward. So all those people that were taking that picture that day, I had listened to them talk about their brother or their sister or their mother or their father or their husband or their, you know, their child. And they walked away with that nugget that they could put their thumbs up in the air and that person or persons was always going to be with them. So when I look at Facebook on the first day of school, I never have to even worry about my grandchildren aren't going to be in the picture like this, because they're always thinking of their aunt and their uncle. And so how can you flip that perspective just a little bit? And so that's one technique that I do. Um, uh, Whatever it is that can make that just a little bit better. So I'll give you an example. It was 5 years in June, and I will be honest, I talk about this all the time. I talk about my daughter and the impact that she had and what impact she still has. But it's been 5 years since I saw her. I was tanking. So my husband said, flip your switch. So I left the room. I come back and I said, oh my gosh, do you know that since Susie left, we've helped over 6,000 kids, putting a teddy bear and a blanket and a comfort bag into their hands. We've done so many walks, we've done so many speeches, we've done, and we've done, right? My perspective flipped. It didn't make it any better that Susie was gone, but it made it a little bit easier, a little bit easier. And so the fourth one that I talk about, the fourth R, is to relate. And you women on this call all know about the importance of supporting each other, supporting the others in our lives, supporting the others in our community. So I believe that you probably lived this one. We have to take care of it. It's three-pronged. We have to take care of ourselves. Some days we're better than other days, right? If we're all real. The second one is that you have to help other people. And so you being here, for an example, you're helping support each other. You're listening, you're hearing about different things going on, different ways to do things. And so you take that back to your job, you take that back to your family, you take that back personally, and you make things a little bit better. And so, you help others that way, because as we help ourselves, we're able to help other people. And then the third one is that we have to help our community. And, whatever way that is, whether it's donations, whether it's volunteerism, whether it's starting your own nonprofit, whether it's just going next door and walking the neighbor's dog, doesn't matter. You've made an impact on the community. And so for me, I talk about self-care. I struggle with this one. Yeah, I don't sleep that well because nighttime is hard for me. But when I practice better self-care, I feel that I'm a better in tune to other people. So that's something that I work on. Helping other people, for me, it's my speaking, it's my books, it's being out there doing the walks, we did Susan G. Komen Race for the Cure, and we put bags in the hand at Gilda's Club so that they can help these families that are dealing with breast cancer, right? There's all different kind of connections. And then, of course, my third one with the community is is my nonprofit. And my nonprofit is, I always say it's kind of three-pronged. I told you the story about helping further the mission of the nonprofits that we support. So they go to hospitals, they go to foster care, they go to shelters, they go to um, uh, grief centers, they go to autism centers, they go to schools. So wherever there's a kid in need and they're in some type of a program setting, that's where the bags can go. So there's no need for us to be involved in seeing them receive the bag. But we like to involve kids in helping kids, because I would always go back to that day on her first birthday where she was gone, and I seen all these kids excited. So we work with Girl Scout, Boy Scout troops and you know, different schools. So this week I'm going to 4 different schools to talk. And I talk a little bit about the power of positivity, about raising awareness for mental health, and, you know, that it's okay not to be okay. It really is okay not to be okay. And that there's someone in the room, in this room here, this virtual room, there is someone that we can all reach out to and tell our story. And that telling of that story, you never know what that other person is going through. I met a woman this week and I was sitting at lunch and she was sitting next to me and she asked me about what I did, and I told her briefly, and she looked at me and she goes, "I lost my son and my sister." And she said, "Huge impact." I said, I I can empathize with you." She said, "But I came from a funeral yesterday and these 3 children lost their father, and the 11-year-old crawled in the casket and wouldn't let go." She said, "What do you say? What do you do?" And of course, I gave her a set of books and an individual one for the kids, and my number and for some contacts. But I just say I'm a connector. That's all I am. I'm just a connector to connect people, resources that they might need. And it might just be that they need that story. Right? And so whatever the moral of my topic today is, present, be conscious of what's good for you, do that, but be conscious that there's others around you that need your story, because it normalizes theirs. When we normalize the story, we stop somebody from going down a rabbit hole of despair. Maybe one from suicide. Maybe we stop someone from feeling that they are the only person challenged with whatever they have that day. Because it's a big, bright world out there. Don't care what we're given, we can always find that morsel of sunshine that can put our feet on the floor and get out of bed that day and suck it up and just do what we need to do on our face, because that smile is going to help not only you, because and you've given yourself a good perspective for the day, but whoever it is that you, and you know, and then whatever you can do to help. I help nonprofits. I help kids with philanthropy at a young, understand they just want to give back. They just want to help. A lot if you give them that up. And at the end of the day, there's always a child that's smiling and maybe cuddling this little teddy bear. They're going to have a good day. And thought, and then open the floor. I was at a and I had a quick, I need to make 200 bags quick. And I had, I don't know, 5 or 6 buggies I was buying. And people were asking me questions and making a spot. But this one woman said, "May I help you out to your car?" And I said, "Absolutely." And so we walked out to the car and loaded the car all up. And she said, "Can I talk to you more?" And she said, "Never doubt what you do." And I say this to all of you, never doubt what you do. And she picked up the teddy bear and she said, "I'm a foster kid my age," so she was in her 60s. She said, "I was a foster kid. This only family I got it when I was little. I went through the system. I got, through life, and it's a ratty-tatty teddy bear, and it has a place of preference in my bedroom. And she said, and that's my family. So she said, never doubt that what you give today to somebody makes, right? And so even if it's just a smile, even if it's just sharing a story, if it's just um, a donation or whatever causes it, it, it's just making a difference. If each one of us today went out and smiled and we touched 5 people, how much this world would be having a better day, right? So I see the chat's got a bunch of stuff and I haven't been reading it, so I just been talking.
Okay, I'm going to stop the recording now, and then we can go into the Q&A.